Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Alexander Jarvis. You may have heard about me from 50 Folds, alexanderjarvis.com, or Perfect Pitch Deck. So today we're going to talk about how to unsuck your financial model. Now, whether you're building it for yourself, for investors, for management in your company, let's face it, you're not just building something for yourself, you're building it for other people to see it. And so it kind of needs to look good. Otherwise, it's not really going to feel credible, right? You're probably thinking, crap, like all this design stuff, like how much effort is that? I know, but it's not that hard. So I was asked last week, hey, Alex, we need to get a financial model out to a prospective investor today. What can you do for us? So I said, okay, send it over. Let me have a look and let me see what I can do for you. All right. And I only had a couple of hours to help them out. So I couldn't do everything, but I could do something. And so what I fundamentally did was change their P&L, added a KPI sheet, went through the logic, split out the assumptions, etc. So the logic was easier to follow through and just made it look a hell of a lot more professional. In fact, when I was dealing with the CEO texted the CEO and said, holy shit, have you seen the model on Dropbox? It looks awesome. And that was only a couple of hours of work. Now, you probably don't know what you should really be doing, all little tips and tricks, the neat things you can really do to make a big difference right now, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this. But stick with me, and I'm going to take you through their original version, my version, and then I'll kind of explain how I did some things and take you through how Excel works, okay? If this sounds interesting, stick with me, and we're going to dive into the actual Excel sheets now. Okay, cool, guys. Bye. So let's first go through these chaps' actual model, the before version, and let's have a look at what it kind of looks like so you'll get a feel for yourself. So this is their first slide. Notice it's just, I don't know, a couple of words with some weird colors on the side, okay? Then if we look at the P&L, right, we got some blue, we got some black going on here. We have got this line, which I personally don't like at all. There's no real headers, but okay. It's not terrible, but And then we see the variables with this gorgeous orange. I'll come back to this little thing here, which means that it's not in line with the formulas. It's a little bit hard to follow. You can see it says staff costs here, other costs, marketing, etc., and some calculations going at the bottom. But it's a little bit hard to understand kind of what's going on here, right? Like, what does this mean? What's this thing? I don't know. Then we look at the final sheet, which is their revenue. And it is sort of structured. They've got the boxes and stuff going here. My guess is this is their actuals, this is their forecast. But do we really know? No, I don't know. So now let's have a quick flick through the after version that I did for these chaps. So we'll see this is obviously replaced with my little logo here. We've added a version here. We've got one assumption and we've got a description of what everything means. We look at the KPIs. The first thing you see, it looks kind of pretty, right? It's consistent, structured format, what month it is, the dates going on. Everything's in green for some reason. I wonder what that is. Must be links. Okay, so we've added the KPI sheet here, structured up into separate parts. You look at the P&L. Okay, it's different than before. You see that we've got some growth rates and other things added, and it's just generally sort of more structured, right? Also, if you want to go flicking around left to right, you don't end up going up to row Z, and we're hoping the whole thing is not going to crash on you. Look at the assumptions. Things are kind of looking different here, right? I mentioned that they weren't structured up, right? Well, what I've done is I've broken things up more. Then it's a little bit easier to follow through what's going on by the different separate parts. Also, these blue parts are the assumptions, and they're a lot more evidently to be seen, right? If we look at the revenues, again, nice similar structure, and sort of looks a little bit easier to follow. So that's a quick overview now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the before and after, sheet by sheet, so you can kind of get a feeling what's happening here. Now, these guys, this is sort of their cover sheet. Obviously, this one looks quite a lot different, right? So pop your logo on the top, put a version control. So financial model version 1, or it could be your startup name, version 1, fundraising model. But put that in just in case you are updating your model over time. And you'll know if you've changed it, for example, version 1.1, version 2, or something. And if someone's got a question and you're not quite sure what it means, you say, well, what version do you have? I said, well, I've got version 1. It's like, oh, okay, sorry, I'm on a version 1.3 now. We made some changes. So this makes sure that everyone's on the same page. This is a really simple link here. And so the date will always start from this assumption here. If you had a lot of assumptions, I would put this on a separate sheet. Okay, but since there's only one, I'll just sort of pop it here. It's not like a key variable or assumption within the model. So I wouldn't want to create a different sheet from it. I'm just putting it here. Now, again, this all sets out very clearly exactly what all the boxes look like, or the cells look like within the model. So now with KPIs, they don't have a KPI sheet. So I included it. You'll see everything's in green, which means that they are links to other sheets. So what I've done is I've split things up by sales, financial, growth, margins, and unit economics. And that way it's not just, a big row of numbers. You can actually split it out and see what's happening here. And so these sales ones are, top level items, or financials are really showing up, I guess, your key financial line items going from the top end to the bottom end. Got a couple of growth metrics here, which are in percentages. Same thing with your margins. And then we've got your unit economics. I'd obviously like to see more granularity here with the LTV, etc. But in this case, these guys are really young, so they don't have them. Now, we'll go down to the next sheet. So we'll look at their P&L versus my P&L. All right. You can see that I've expanded the P&L. First thing, again, you have a title at the front. It all sort of looks very pretty, right? This little orange up here and this cascading sort of blue with the months and the dates. Whereas theirs is just sort of anonymously pulled into the model. All right, we've got similar sorts of bolding, but I also have what I call narrow rows. All right, these are, if you look at the height, row height, they are row height 5. You can do some weird little formatting here, where if you could make that a little bit larger, you make this a little bit larger, and you could align the font so it would kind of get aligned. And some people can kind of do that, but it's just a pain in the ass to manage. Whereas if you just copy these and, you insert them in different places, you can create that sort of alignment effect that you'd like, but without having to do lots of messing around with the formatting. So it just makes life really easier for you to do that. I just kind of feel that these big normal gaps are a bit too large. What we've done is I've actually changed their P&L. So it didn't make sense the way it was done before. So we'll see here, we've got this acquisition costs and marketing costs, which are part of cost of service. So first off, marketing cost shouldn't go into your COGS, okay? You want to put it under a distinct marketing cost line item. Now, it would technically go under your OPEX, but we don't do that because marketing is a function of growth. Both on the cost and the revenue. Well, it's a cost function on your OPEX, but it's a driver of growth. So you can increase your revenue slightly in the short term, but more dramatically in the longer term, but you'll immediately see it in your operating expenses. So you could say, do you know what, if I decrease my marketing spend, I could get profitable faster, but I may not necessarily be making more revenue. So this is a trick where you kind of want to separate this out and make it clear that this is where the marketing is going, and you can actually show specific margins for it here. Okay. So first off, we're taking this marketing cost out, or what they've written is a little bit confusing. This is effectively the marketing cost. And this marketing cost is actually sort of COGS. It's the listing fee. So you can see this $1,200 is really the only COGS cost that they have. One thing I did was I went and looked at their public competitors. I downloaded their annual report from the investor relations segment, and I looked at how they structured their P&L. And they didn't disaggregate things to the level I would have liked, but I did check it to make sure it made sense. So always work smart, not hard, where you can, and steal. Stealing's great. So I made a couple of other changes depending what was going on here, but it was a little bit of a function of them not explicitly stating what their costs and what their revenue streams were to make it really clear of how they were composed, which I basically just made it a lot simpler. So you can see black are your calculations, green are your formulas. Now for fun, why don't we look at a cool toy? So you see these little graphs? Mind blown, right? People's minds are always blown when they see these. These are called spark lines. If you want to add them, you just go to Insert, go to Spark Lines, you put them in, you select the row you want. Congratulations, you get spark lines. They are amazing. Clients that I make models for absolutely love them. And I basically put them everywhere. And why are they cool? Because you can see the general trend that's happening. If there's any weird spikes and you go, why is that happening? And so where you see these anomalous little spikes, you may want to still check what's happening. It's just a lot easier to see when you see it in a graph. Okay. Now moving on, you'll see black lines. I do not like these. You'll see I don't have them. That's because your model is almost always a work in progress. And when you put those in and you start reformatting, adding rows, adding columns or something, things get really messy. And these lines are just a total pain in the ass. So I don't do them unless you've built something really high quality, which is not really going to change. And in which case you can kind of change things. It's just not a really effectual way of doing it. Now let's look at the assumptions costs next. We'll see, yeah, it looks a whole bunch different, right? The first thing that happens here is these costs versus the headcount have been split out, whereas it's just one part of this big block, right? It just looks a hell of a lot easier to be the same difference. The wage calculations have also been disaggregated a bit. You'll see here. We'll have the total staff have been pulled up, and then we'll have a calculation of total wages. It just makes it a little bit more clear to understand. Now, when we're looking at total costs, that basically is the same, except it's just taking out the dates, putting it in line, making it clear with the green versus the assumptions. Next, we've got sales and marketing costs as opposed to just the marketing costs. Most of this is basically the same, but we'll see here the way the calculations have been done. The actual cost summaries have been disaggregated a lot more, so they're easier to pull into the P&L and explicitly state what is going where. Whereas in the way that they were doing it previously, it kind of just didn't make sense, and the calculations just weren't clear. So it may not look like such a big change, but this actually did take me quite a lot of time to figure out exactly what was what and what is going where. Now next, let's have a look at the revenues, the final sheet. So not a huge difference really happening here. Obviously, it just looks a lot more cleaner. Yeah, there you go. There's a summary of that compared to this. Now, we'll coming back to some things I don't like. I mentioned this before on this cost sheet when they had done it here with the wages per month of the staff. And how we sit here again with the closing times. I put them all in line, right? You see each of the rows have all the cells populated up here, whereas these guys just have it. So if you look at their formulas, you'll see that this has this weird fun offset function which pulls out from here. It's not in line. I like having them in line so that I can actually see what the hell is going on, right? You see it's pulling in line. So I did the same thing with the assumptions cost, which you'll see here with these guys. And so these salaries are all in line. All right. I also include formulas here, which I know they're kind of formatted in blue, but it's just to signify that. So if you just want to change, you know, that to something, you can, it just fixes, or you say you do it here to 700. The 500 is all there, but the 700 starts changing, all right? This is just another little good practice that you kind of want to do. And next, you can see all these grid lines. They're not super lovely, whereas you see I don't have them. Now, I haven't actually changed the background formatting to this because it makes it a little bit finicky when you start changing the formats of stuff. So it's best to set your background not as a random color, but actually just get rid of those grid lines. So how would you do that? Well, if you click on page layout under grid lines view, boom, grid lines gone. Easy, right? Okay, guys, that was a generalized, high level ish sort of walkthrough. I'm not getting in too much sort of nerdy detail about this. I just sort of wanted to kind of help explain some of the changes you can see and actually more how I actually did them. So, what you want to do now, right, is on the blog at the top or the bottom, there's a little box where you can download it, and you'll download both these files, the before and the after, and you can see, exactly how these guys did it, and open the after version and see, exactly all the little changes that I've done. But pay attention to little details, and maybe try and replicate this with the version that I did, and see if you can do it the same way too. It'll take you a while to, be able to do this quickly. This took me, you know, two-ish, I guess, actual messing around probably took me about an hour and a half. I spent a lot of time trying to understand the logic of the model, looking at comparative reports to figure out how the reporting should be set up. So I kind of did quite a lot of stuff which you can't see. But there was quite a lot of thinking that went into how do you actually change this around and make it make more sense. And this is what it ended up looking like. So if you go through both of them, you'll be able to kind of pick up some learnings that'll make you better at a financial modeler, a presenter, and a communicator. I hope that was sort of interesting. Um, if you've got any questions, feel free to ping me on the questions or the comments, and I will be happy to answer them for you guys. Now, thank you so much for spending some time with me. It's really cool. I really hope I just helped you get better, smarter, get funded, and achieve your dreams, guys. God bless. Bye.